Hello and welcome to Talking Defense, Rafael's Defense Magazine. Every program will be dedicated to a different subject with all relevant experts, data and aspects here in the studio and from around the world. And today, BNET. With me in the studio is Yoav Vermut, Vice President, C3I Directorate Air and C4ISR Systems Division. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me today. So what is BNET?
Hi, Yoav. BNET is a solution to one of the greatest challenges of modern warfare, achieving truly end-to-end connectivity between all members of your army.
And what exactly are you trying to do and how do you do it?
I think that the best way to explain the change or the difference that the BNET system can make is by an analogy to the day-to-day life that we have. We have gone through a revolution in communication throughout the last 20 to 30 years. And we are now taking it for granted that we are connected all the time from all places. This is far from the case in modern warfare. Today, even the most modern armies and air forces doesn't have such a capability in their hand. So imagine that I take off all of your communication means and now ask you to manage your day-to-day life. It will be impossible. So this is the challenge that modern forces are trying to mitigate today. Now, actually, the communication solutions haven't changed much over the last 50 years. Although we have better technology, better radios, they are all working on the same principles as radios that worked 50 years ago.
Which means if I find a battlefield, I look for the most antennas, and that's the commander.
Exactly. And why does the commander have so many antennas? Because you want to be a participant in many networks. It's like asking you to carry 5 smartphones for 5 different WhatsApp groups. You will never take such a smartphone to your own use. But this is the reality in modern military communication. And the reason for this shortage or for this capability is that till today, modern tactical communication is based on the principle in which a network equals a frequency. Meaning that if I want to have a network with you, we should share the same frequency. And this is how militaries work throughout the decades. They divide the spectrum into hundreds of thousands of frequencies or frequency channels. And on each one of these relatively lower band channels, they only construct a small network with minimum number of participants and with a lower bandwidth.
So what BNET allows them to do?
So here comes the difference between a BNET radio and all other radios. A BNET radio receives hundreds of thousands of channels at the same time. We have brought this technology from the electronic warfare experience that we have, and actually we have converged technologies from this world into the communication world. And that makes a great difference because now you don't have to divide manually the frequency or the spectrum into different channels. You let the algorithms and the radio do it for you. So instead of having one network with you and another with another participant, having 2 different radios, now I can receive both of you in the same radio and have the network algorithms connect all of us at the same time.
And how do I protect the data? Because it enables me to get so much data from so many sources, but at the same time, it's vulnerable.
It might have been vulnerable if we have not put the right measure within the system. And you're right that it's enormous amount of data. Just for perspective, a normal tactical network today can move kilobits, 10 kilobits, maybe several hundreds of kilobits per second. This is not enough for higher bandwidth applications such as video sharing, etc. A BNET network can go up to 100 megabits per second on the tactical level. And the experience is just like an internet connection. And with that experience come the cyber and security measures that we put into the system. So we have all the protection layers as you would expect from such a network, just like you have cyber measures in the internet today, but of course adapted to the tactical level.
And now you're introducing a new variant to that.
That is true. We have many types of BNETs, but the new member in the family allow you to achieve even connectivity even to the smallest autonomous players in the battlefields, such as small drones and etc. So we have brought this BNET technology down to small form factors which can be carried by practically anyone.
And that allows every source to speak to every source. I mean, an aircraft can speak to a tank, which can speak to a battalion commander, which can speak to a drone, anybody to anything?
Yes, the BNET family is composed of members spanning from radios for airborne platforms such as combat aircraft, down to military vehicles, down to the soldier level, and even down to the small drone. All of these BNET units, whether they are big or small, can connect with one another, sharing the same language, the same communication protocol. So the short answer is yes. They can all be connected without any pre-measures that you should put in place in order to make it happen.
And it's no secret that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, is using BNET, and as we well know, the IDF is fighting all over and is a huge consumer of data.
That is true. We have several types of BNETs here installed in Israel, deployed within the IDF. Of course, these are specific units for the specific needs of the IDF. And yes, I'm happy to say that we are taking our part in our IDF efforts today.
But not only in Israel, in India, for example, you're well known in the Indian Army and in other places as well.
Yeah, that is true. BNET is a relatively new technology, but we have started the design of the system more than 10 years ago, and over the last 7 years, we have equipped customers with BNET systems on a large scale. You mentioned India, and indeed we have been chosen to be the supplier of the complete network of the Indian Air Force, which is one of the largest air force worldwide. And actually we are providing the complete end-to-end communication solution for India. Another thing that we are doing in India is answering all the needs for localization, both in the industrial aspects and of course economical and industrial, and of course also in the security and sovereignty of the user to control the most sensitive aspects of a
Which
system.
means you manufacture some of the products in India itself.
That is true. We are manufacturing about 90% of what we are supplying in India. We have established a company in India with a partner in India, an Indian partner, which is producing right now this large amount of radios.
How do you see the future of the spectrum world? Because it's interesting to all armies all around the world. They all face the same problems, the same future, the same tasks. So looking at BNET and at the future, what do you tell them?
First, I tell them, and everyone agree, that this is one of the greatest challenges of modern warfare. Everyone has this problem, and it gets tougher day by day because the gap between what you want to do and what you can do, because the lack of appropriate communication is becoming wider and wider. And this is why we are bringing BNET to the table. And we think that this is the right solution for closing this gap, because think 5 or 10 years from now, everyone will need high bandwidth application in all of their endpoints, whether they are manned or unmanned. And actually, we don't see any better solution today to achieve this target.
Get BNET and be ahead. Yoav Vermut, thank you so much for joining me today. And that's all from us today. We'll be back shortly with another edition of Talking Defense. Until then, stay safe and stay tuned. Bye-bye.